A German tourist has won a payout of more than 850 after he was unable to secure a sun lounger due to other guests reserving them with towels. The man, who has not been identified, was on holiday in Greece with his family in 2024 and said he spent 20 minutes a day trying to find a sun lounger, despite waking up at 06. Israel has attacked Beirut for the first time since it agreed to a ceasefire in the war with the Lebanese armed group Hezbollah, putting further pressure on a deal that has failed to stop the conflict. The airstrike hit the city's southern suburbs known as Dahir, where Hezbollah is based. Images posted online showed large flames and at least one building heavily damaged. Donald Trump's pause on a short-lived Project Freedom to guide ships through the Strait of Hormuz, as he claimed progress had been made towards clinching a complete and final agreement with Iran, soothed oil markets and sent hopes soaring of a breakthrough, but expectations were soon tempered by the US president himself.
Iran says a US proposal to end the war is still being considered after reports the two sides could be close to an agreement. US news outlet Axios reported on Wednesday that the White House believes it could be closing in on a 14-point memorandum of understanding with Iran.
Washington, D.C. A group of Democrats in the United States Congress have called on the State Department to break the U.S. government's long-standing silence on Israel's nuclear capabilities. In a letter sent to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, the Democrats pointed to the U.S.-Israel war on Iran as the reason more clarity is urgently needed.
And health authorities of the South American nation of Argentina are working to determine whether their country is the source of a deadly hantavirus outbreak that has claimed several lives on board an Atlantic cruise ship. The Argentinian Ministry of Health said on Wednesday that it would send experts to the far south area of Ushuaia to capture and test rodents which typically transmit the disease in areas linked to the route taken by a Dutch couple who died from the virus.
Lashi Groom, one of Silicon Valley's most closely watched solo investors, decided to back Indian startup Pronto just 20 minutes into his first meeting with its 24-year-old founder. The meeting, which took place in February through a mutual connection, led to Groom investing $20 million in Pronto as an extension of its Series B round, valuing the startup at $200 million after the investment, double its valuation just over 2 months earlier, as TechCrunch had previously reported. The deal came together within weeks, bringing the solo investor on board as the Bengaluru-based startup expands to meet growing demand for on-demand home services in India.
And a Dutch cruise ship hit with a hantavirus outbreak has left Cape Verde after 3 people on board were medically evacuated. A British man, 56, a Dutch crew member, 41, and a German national, 65, were sent from the MV Hondius to the Netherlands for treatment, officials said.
Secessionists in the Western Canadian province of Alberta recently announced that they have gathered enough signatures to launch a referendum on independence from the rest of the country. Leading secessionists said that they formally submitted about 300,000 signatures to election authorities earlier this week, far more than the 178,000 required for the province to consider a referendum.
And holders Paris Saint-Germain booked a Champions League final against Arsenal as a 1-1 draw in their semi-final second leg at Bayern Munich sealed a 6-5 aggregate victory, leading 5-4 after last week's thrilling first leg in Paris. Luis Enrique's side stretched their overall advantage early on through Ousmane Dembélé on Wednesday.
United States President Donald Trump says he has had very good talks with Iran over the past 24 hours, and it is very possible that we will make a deal. As Tehran reviews a U.S. peace proposal that sources said would formally end the war, signaling progress in the ongoing talks between the two sides, Trump on Wednesday also said Iran should suspend its nuclear program and reopen the Strait of Hormuz, threatening to resume bombardment if negotiations fall apart.
Anthropic has reached a deal to tap the computing resources of Elon Musk's SpaceX, marking a detente with its one-time critic and a boost for both companies in the high-stakes artificial intelligence race. Under the agreement announced on Wednesday, Anthropic will use the full computing power of SpaceX's Colossus One facility in Memphis, Tennessee, which houses more than 220 thousand NVIDIA processors and will give the Claude chatbot maker 300 megawatts of new capacity within a month. That's enough electricity to power more than 300,000 homes as the Dario Amodei-led company seeks to boost the capacity of its Claude Pro and Claude Max AI assistants for subscribers.
Russia's Ministry of Foreign Affairs says it has warned diplomatic missions to promptly evacuate their staff from the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, in case Moscow launches a mass strike on the city in response to potential Ukrainian attempts to disrupt Russia's May 9 Victory Day commemorations. In a video posted on Telegram on Wednesday, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova urged diplomats to heed the Defense Ministry's warning of a strike, issued on Monday in the event of a Ukrainian attack during the commemorations of the Soviet Union's victory against Nazi Germany in World War II and a military parade in Red Square. On Wednesday, xAI and Anthropic announced a surprise partnership that has the Claude maker buying out all of the compute capacity at xAI's Colossus One data center, roughly 300 MW, that allowed Anthropic to immediately raise its usage limits. It's a huge deal for xAI, likely worth billions of dollars. More importantly, it immediately monetized one of the company's most impressive accomplishments, turning xAI from a consumer to a provider of compute. It's tempting to see the arrangement as a shot at OpenAI amid the ongoing lawsuit. But Musk's explanation on X was that xAI had already moved training to a newer data center, Colossus 2, and xAI simply didn't need them both. Snap no longer has a deal with Perplexity, the company revealed on Wednesday as part of its quarterly earnings report. The deal, announced last November, would have seen Perplexity's AI search engine integrated directly into Snapchat. Perplexity was set to pay Snap $400 million in cash and equity over 1 year as part of the deal. Snap said that the companies amicably ended the relationship in Q1 seconds and that its sales guidance assumes no contribution from Perplexity. When Snap announced the deal as part of its third quarter earnings last year, it said it expected revenue from the partnership to begin contributing to its financials in 2026. Billionaire media mogul Barry Diller doesn't think OpenAI CEO Sam Altman is untrustworthy, despite recent reporting to the contrary. On stage at the Wall Street Journal's Future of Everything conference this week, Diller vouched for the AI exec, who has been accused by some former colleagues and board members of being manipulative and deceptive at times. Diller, who is friendly with Altman, was responding to a question about whether or not people should put their faith in Altman to ensure that artificial intelligence benefits humanity.
And business insurance startup Corgi announced on Wednesday a $160 million Series B led by TCV, valuing the startup at $1.3 billion. The startup's co-founder Nico Lacqua said on LinkedIn, this comes just 4 months after the company announced a $108 million Series A. The company has now raised $268 million in funding to date, Lacqua said, and has become Y Combinator's latest unicorn.
A senior officer in Gaza's interior ministry has been killed in an Israeli airstrike. According to Palestinian medics and Hamas sources, the medics on Wednesday said Nassim al-Khalazani, a colonel in the police force, was killed in a targeted Israeli strike on his vehicle near the Al-Mawasi area in western Khan Yunis city in the south of the besieged Gaza Strip.
And In a new wave of attacks in Mali, an al-Qaeda-linked group has stormed a main prison housing fighters from the armed group and set fire to trucks with food supplies heading to the capital Bamako. Fighters from the Jamaat Nurat al-Islam wal Muslimin (JNM) group stormed the Kenyaroba Central Prison, a recently built complex dubbed Africa Alcatraz, located about 60 kilometers, 37 miles southwest of Bamako. Al Jazeera's Nicholas Hack reported on Wednesday.
Robinhood CEO Vlad Tenev is touting the success of the fintech's new ventures fund I, which allows retail investors to invest in private tech companies like Stripe, Ura, Databricks, OpenAI and others through a publicly traded fund listed on the NYSE. We had something like over 150,000 retail investors participate in the IPO, so it's quite democratized, noted Tenev in an interview at the Wall Street Journal's Future of Everything conference this week. The fund, which launched in March, arrives at a time when the term unicorn, which once referred to the rare billion-dollar startup, has become outdated. When AI model providers like OpenAI and Anthropic are raising capital at valuations of $850+ billion to $900 billion, another word besides unicorn is needed. Microsoft is weighing whether to delay or scale back one of its most ambitious clean energy goals as its rapid build-out of AI data centers puts pressure on its ability to meet those targets. Microsoft has yet to make any public announcements, but according to Bloomberg, the company is having internal discussions over its hourly clean energy matching goal. The tech company has said that by 2030, it intends to match 100% of its hourly energy use with clean power on the same grid. But Microsoft's rush to build AI data centers has apparently sparked debate within the company about whether the pledge has become an impediment to its ambitions.
Primary elections in Indiana and Ohio have drawn the latest battle lines for the United States midterm elections in November. While underscoring Trump's continued sway over Republican voters, in Ohio, voters on Tuesday picked the candidates who will face off in the consequential election, with Democrats picking former Senator Sherrod Brown to take on Republican John Husted. Husted replaced Vice President J.D. Vance when he left his Senate seat for the White House. A U.S. court has sentenced Latvian hacker Denis Zolotajovs to more than 8 years in prison following his conviction for carrying out ransomware attacks. The Justice Department accused the hacker of working for a notorious Russian ransomware gang called Karakurt, which was led by former leaders of the Akira and Conti ransomware gangs, who were sanctioned by the U.S. Treasury for their alleged links to Russian intelligence.
In late August 2017, key figures at OpenAI, then a small non-profit research lab, gathered to discuss how they would create a for-profit to commercialize its technology and raise the funds needed to realize AGI. Elon Musk was demanding full control of the company and had just given each of his co-founders a Tesla Model 3. CTO Greg Brockman said he saw that as a way of buttering them up at a time when Musk and Sam Altman were vying to win support for their respective visions of the company's future. OpenAI's head of research, Ilya Sutskever, had commissioned a painting of a Tesla to give Musk during the meeting as a friendly gesture.
Islamabad. PTI Secretary General Salman Akram Raja on Wednesday maintained that the formation of the Punjab Coordination and Monitoring Committee would not be discussed, as the party leadership planned to raise the issue in the upcoming party meeting. The composition of the aforementioned committee has been a subject of internal rift within the party, with leaders opposing the nomination of Amjad Khan Niazi as the convener of the body, as he had parted ways with the party in the wake of May 9, 2023 protests.
And Israel struck Beirut on Wednesday for the first time since agreeing to a ceasefire with Hezbollah last month, with Israel claiming it targeted a commander of the group's elite Radwan force in the city's southern suburbs. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Israel Katz announced the action in a joint statement. Israeli media reported that the commander was killed in the strike, but there was no immediate confirmation from the Israeli military or Hezbollah.
Israeli forces have targeted Beirut's southern suburbs for the second time on Wednesday, causing a loud explosion and extensive damage. The Israeli army confirmed the attack and said it was targeting Malek Balu, a commander of Hezbollah's Radwan force.
And DeepSeek is in talks to raise its first round of venture capital, and in just a few weeks, its potential valuation has soared from $20 billion to $45 billion, the Financial Times and Bloomberg reported. And the Chinese AI lab came to prominence in early 2025 after launching a large language model that trained on a fraction of the compute power and at a fraction of the cost of the big US models like those from OpenAI and Anthropic. And it has since kept reasonable pace with the top models in the world in areas like reasoning and coding, while remaining open weight. Versions are freely available on Hugging Face.
SpaceX, Elon Musk's space company that also houses his AI company, XAI, is considering spending $55 billion, at least initially, to build a semiconductor factory in Grimes County, Texas, according to a proposal on the county website. The company estimates it may spend a total of $119 billion on the project, which would be a multi-phase, next-generation, vertically integrated semiconductor manufacturing and advanced computing fabrication facility, according to the filing. AI evaluation startup Braintrust has urged customers to revoke and replace their API keys after an earlier breach of customer secrets. According to an email sent to customers Monday and seen by TechCrunch, the startup confirmed unauthorized access in one of its Amazon Web Services cloud accounts, which contained API keys used by customers for accessing cloud-based AI models.